Welcome back to the Mentality Podcast, the best podcast for men in the 21st century. I'm Ben.
I'm Wolf.
Let's get into it, baby. What'd you get up to the last couple weeks?
Last week I took a week off work and I was out at my cabin in rural where I live.
Solid description.
Solid, don't want you to find my house type stuff.
For those of you wondering what the address is, it is...
Yeah, you don't even know what the fucking address is, so...
No, I don't.
No, I was out at my cottage and just took a week off of work to decompress and just recharge the batteries a bit. I've been feeling pretty beat down lately, and I just needed a week out there where it's nice and quiet and, you know, I can walk 2 minutes to a beach and just enjoy the finer things in life.
First week on the Mentality Podcast job. I already took a week off. 1 week
of the podcast was just too much for me. I mean, it's not that different from the first podcast where we took, I think, a month in between episode 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough, you know, recording episodes once every couple of months.
Well, I think that was because I was still in school when we were recording the first one, and I was busy trying to not fail all my classes.
Look where that's got us now, both dropouts.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I did the exact opposite of what you did, and I went to a couple shows with thousands of people for the first time. So I heard you got bit by a squirrel.
I was a chipmunk, actually.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not so well versed in squirrels.
No, I was sitting on my front porch, and there's quite a bit of wildlife that inhabits the yard around my cottage, and we have a bird bath out in the front and everything, so I like to watch the birds, you know, do their thing. But there's these chipmunks that run around and are always looking for a handout, and I had a bag of peanuts with me, and I was kind of tossing them out to these chipmunks, and there was one in particular that was a little bigger than the other ones, I'm assuming a bit older, and gradually over a couple days I got him to come closer to me and like take them out of my hand, and worked up to the point that he was sitting in my lap, taking them right out of my hand, and I guess he mistook my thumb for a peanut and gave it a little chomp there.
At least there's like 50% chance it wasn't rabid.
Well, yeah, I spent the 3 or 4 days afterward waiting to develop symptoms of Lyme disease or something.
WebMD said you were dead already, so I just assumed you'd be fine.
That's the one thing I always advise against for people. Like, if you're sick or something, don't Google your symptoms, because you go from a sore throat to dying real fast.
My mouth is dry. Yeah, you probably need to be in the ICU.
Sounds like you just need another beer.
Yeah, apparently I need a few. This is like, I feel like I'm in another world trying to do this podcast right now. I definitely, a couple weeks ago, I went to a show. I paid for tickets to a show, and I got so drunk that I can tell you one moment, a 12-second moment that happened in that entire show. Probably not my finest moment, but I woke up in the morning and I'm looking through my phone, and there's a video of me walking down the street just talking to the camera at 2 o'clock in the morning. Why am I walking around downtown at 2 o'clock in the morning? Anyways, that was not my finest choice. So was downloading Tinder. That night was not great for me in Tinder. How do you find Tinder?
Solid segue there, by the way. For me, I've... I'm
good at that.
You are. No, I have a very, very... let's say tumultuous relationship with dating apps. I've tried probably just about all of them, and I've sworn off of them more times than I can remember.
No luck catching them swans.
Yeah, no luck catching them swans. That's a real callback there in the history of our friendship. That one's going to go over everyone's heads.
You could also just explain it.
I could, but I feel like it's better to just leave that untouched.
All right.
Let's just completely skip over that one. Anyway, no, that was just Ben using an analogy of a message that I got from a girl on Tinder who I matched with, and I guess I didn't message her for a day or two, and the only thing she sent me was "no luck catching them swans, huh?"
I'm gonna go find that screenshot and like put it on screen just so you can see it.
Yeah, it's probably somewhere in the group chat or in the text conversation somewhere. But yeah, right now the only dating app that I currently use is Hinge, which I'm finding a little bit less painful than Tinder and Bumble. But Yeah, they've at one point those apps had like completely destroyed any self-confidence that I had left, to be honest.
They do. It's fucked up. Lately, I've kind of gotten into, this might be a slightly hot take, so I'm going to tread lightly on this one, but there was a guy in a YouTube video, a podcast I was listening to, and he was explaining that like watching porn and being on Tinder makes us terrible, like it gives us terrible self-confidence, because like if you don't like something, you just swipe away, or if you do like something and you swipe for it, or you like watch this video on like fucking Pornhub or something, but you like change your mind and you want to go to the next thing, then you can just swipe and keep swiping and keep changing to different videos and shit, and like we become like quick attention, like it's like TikTok for dating. Like I don't like the video I scroll on TikTok, I don't like the woman that is actually a real human being on Tinder, I just swipe away. And I don't think that's really how that works. Like in real life, you talk to someone, you get to know them, that's how you determine whether you like them or not like these shitty pictures that don't show you anything, or like these fucking, I don't know, that's my opinion. But like I honestly think that Tinder, Bumble, and these apps mixed with like other societal things that go with relationships just fuck us up.
I know I'm not Brad Pitt by any means, but I don't think I'm a terrible looking guy. You know, I'm a solid 5, I like to think. But like on Tinder, I would get like very rarely ever get a match. And I'm like sitting there going, really? I'm that bad looking that people aren't even like, yeah, why not? Right? Swipe right. It's just very much, I would sit there agonizing over that. Like, I don't think I'm that bad looking of a guy, and I just don't ever have any success on these apps. So that's why I kind of like Hinge a bit better, because you have more about the prompts and everything, and you can actually write a little bit and see just a little bit more than on Tinder.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like one thing that Tinder's also done to me is that like opening lines, when you get that match, you're like, okay, I actually like this person, I'll send him a message. You've gone through all this effort to get the match, which is like, for girls, this is like way different. I know matches are like way easier for women because dudes are fucking horny as hell. But send that first message and they don't respond, you're like significantly less confident in sending the next message. And if you're going like a bad streak where you send an opening message and you don't get a response because you don't like quite send the right message or like whatever, I found that has made me really terrible at conversation starters in real life too, because these things that I've always used in the real world that have gotten me into conversations, even like just talking to the boys, like, you know, you start a conversation with a random dude you just like want to like joke around with, whatever, it makes me significantly less confident when these opening lines that should work or our conversation starters just get ignored. So it like fucks up your like physical confidence, the way you look, fucks up the way I like conversate. Like last weekend, I was talking to a girl at this show and I couldn't talk. I like, not that I was like nervous because it's a girl, that weird shit, but like I was like walking on eggshells in what I'm saying, and I've never felt like that before in a conversation in my life. So
I've noticed this weird thing recently that, and I have a theory about why this is, but there had been times in the past where if I had been talking to somebody, talking to a girl that I found attractive, I would get, you know, you get that you get a little nervous, like you get that little feeling in your stomach.
Yeah.
And like lately I've noticed where I've talked to people that I know that are, you know, who I would consider attractive women, but they're either engaged or have a boyfriend or something, and I don't get nervous. And I think my theory is that because I know that there's nothing there, that it's like, okay, well, the pressure's off, right? If I say something stupid, if I make a dumb joke or whatever and they don't find it funny, it's like, well, whatever, you know, there's nothing going to happen there anyway. But like if it's somebody who I know isn't attached and I'm attracted to, then I definitely have that little bit of like, you know, don't say something stupid, don't fuck this up, little instinct in myself. So
I feel that I feel like I've been trying to figure out where that comes from, and I think a lot of it is like expectation, or like, I don't know, I feel like no generation before us has ever had these issues. I know that for a fact, because we've never had such, like, even the pandemic, like you could make a choice to not be on Tinder before 2020, but if you wanted to date in 2020, it's not like you could go to a bar. And now that things are reopening here, I'm seeing that the effects of being forced to date online are like making everyone a lot more weird about it. But like I was talking to people, like friends in relationships, and like I totally understand what you mean, because like there is no expectation. And ultimately, like one understanding that I think a lot of guys don't think about or recognize is, it sounds stupid to say, but girls are human beings too, and they're not that hard to conversate with, which I know sounds simple, but like dating apps have made expectations higher too, I think. Or like hookup culture has made the expectations that you're just going to get laid.
Yeah, see, I never had that expectation though. Maybe I'm just wired differently, but I guess that's part of the problem I have with those apps is that I've never bought into the hookup culture thing. I've always valued emotional connection over that, I guess. The more I think about it now, because it's not something that I regularly think about these days, what with the state of the world. But no, I guess I always valued emotional connection, and I'd rather just shoot the shit with somebody than worry about with that kind of shit.
Yeah, I agree. I heard about a few months ago, it was an app similar to Hinge, but basically the only thing you had to work off of was conversation. It was meant to like rewire some of our brains. Never heard anything about it again. I don't know, maybe it's still in the works or something, but my issue with Hinge is that there was just like, I'm not really interested in older women, and like most of the women in Calgary on Hinge were like 30 plus. And I don't know that I really want that, so I kind of avoided it. But the concept of that, if it could get like mass attention, would be really good. Like start a conversation based on someone's personality, someone's character. Because that's really like, even if your intention is just to hook up with someone, personally, I wouldn't want to hang around with someone for hours, a couple hours even, that had literally no personality. Like, I don't know. That's my take on that, I guess. But maybe not everyone has that opinion.
I don't know. I definitely know what you mean, because I have noticed on Hinge there have been a lot more, or I've seen a lot more women on there that are, out of my age demographic, or like are in their 30s or something.
Right.
Which has never bothered me. But doesn't that kind of go against your whole, because haven't you said that you're only interested in something casual right now?
Well, I mean, to clarify that, yes, but mainly based on our last episode when I was kind of talking about like building career, like that is my main focus right now, is to build something for myself personally and work on myself personally. I was in a relationship for like, my last relationship was like, I think a year and a half roughly. And I've been on like literally less than half a dozen dates since then. And breakup was like almost 3 years ago now, just because my desire is not to be in a long-term committed relationship where like I'm thinking about possibly marrying someone. Like a low expectation relationship where it's just someone to kind of hang around with, has perks perhaps, would kind of be enticing to me, but not anything with a lot of commitment, because I'm really just kind of committed to things that I'm doing and committed to myself, as cheesy as that is to say.
I kind of go back and forth just because I feel like I'm at that point, or I'm at a point in my life where I wouldn't mind having somebody that I have that connection with in my life, but also I acknowledge that I'm not, not that I believe in perfection. I don't think anyone's perfect, but I don't think I'm an ideal person at the moment that I need to have that. I definitely do have work to do on myself, and I have work to do both professionally and personally. And I once I sort of accepted that, it made it a little easier to, accept where I am right now and realize that if something does happen and I end up in a relationship, fine, I'm okay with that. But if it doesn't, then, it's not a huge deal. Relationships,
I also do believe that the concept that you have to be perfect before you go into a relationship is stupid. Not that women and like girls in relationships should have to fix guys, because I see that all the time everywhere, because that is certainly not something you should ever expect out of anyone. But someone who can at least acknowledge your flaws and you can acknowledge theirs, you can work together to grow, but you understand each and enjoy each other with the flaws, that's cool. Being perfect and being on the other end of the spectrum are just like too much, I think.
Yeah, it's actually funny. A few weeks ago, I was talking to this kid that I worked with. He was like in the break room with me, and he said how he was telling me that he had just gone on his first date the other day. And we were just kind of chit-chatting, and I'm like, oh, good for you, man. And he's like, yeah, you probably think I'm a loser. I'm like, why would I think you're a loser? He's like, well, because I'm in grade 12, and I'm just going on my first date. And I'm sitting across from him like, dude, I turned 23 this year, and I've never been on a date. So, I mean, it's kind of different perspectives, I guess, right?
What is a date? Like, I don't think I've ever...
Yeah, that's the thing, is like dates... I think the word date is... I don't want to say... The word date is kind of outdated. Because, like... when our parents were growing up, like a date was, I'll pick you up in the car and we'll go watch a movie and get ice cream or something. And it was like called a date. Whereas now I feel like people our age just call that hanging out.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I know for sure when I moved here, a couple months after I moved here, I like actively said to a girl that we were going on a date. We just got coffee, walked around, went on dinner, like, doesn't sound like, I don't know that I'd quantify that as, I guess dinner is a date, but like it was kind of just like you said, it was like hanging out. I don't know.
Yeah,
dates are like, I don't know, I've been on dates, I guess, if you classify that as a date, but certainly not like anything. You hear people who go on these elaborate dates for like mini golf, and then you go to dinner and then all this shit. I'm like, no, that is not something I've done. Remember that time we tried to date my sister?
I mean, I don't know that I would call it trying to date your sister. I think I would call it more, I was actively trying to ruin every single family gathering for the foreseeable future that you had.
It almost worked too.
Did it?
No, not really.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that's not how I remember it. Basically, I matched with Ben's sister on Tinder once, and she, I guess in a flight of panic, immediately unmatched me.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, she sent me that she saw you on Tinder, and she texted me a screenshot, just like, look who I see. And my response was, yes? Like, what do you expect? You are a female in a city with someone else I know who is also on Tinder. So why are you sending me this?
That would have been a while ago, too, because I haven't been on Tinder in months.
It was for sure this year. I think she recalled the time that she did match.
Yeah, well, I mean, she must have felt strongly enough about it that she unmatched me almost immediately, mind you.
Before
I could even come up with an opening line.
Hey, I chose the better sibling now. Something like that. About shitting on me probably would have been the result.
I mean, I don't know.
I matched with one of my sister's friends, actually. I went back to Winnipeg last summer, and I was like, you know what? Let's see what Tinder's got in Winnipeg. Just as a joke. Why not, right? And I saw my sister's best friend from high school. So I swiped right and instantly matched. And she...
Ooh.
I did not unmatch. I kept it there. Did not send a message, but I just left it there. Let it marinate.
Just kept it in your back pocket.
Yeah. I like to have those kinds of things in my back pocket.
While you're busy trying to catch them swans.
Yeah. All of them swans. I feel like I don't have any crazy Tinder stories. Like people sending me weird messages.
I'm sure I have a couple. I know for a while there, like I went back and forth on that app where there were times where I would take it very seriously, which is when it started to affect my mental health. And there were times where I just was like, I don't give a fuck anymore. And that's kind of where I'm at with Hinge too. Like I send wild shit on that app in response to people's prompts. But I remember...
I feel like now that you've told some stories, I have to tell a story.
Oh, do you remember one already?
Not from Tinder. Which one do you want to hear about more? The name or ninth grade?
Are the two mutually exclusive?
I believe that I know the definition of that, so yes.
Sorry, I forgot that I need to keep this at a 7th grade reading level.
Like 4th, preferably, actually.
4th grade? Okay, all right. Let's go with the 9th grade one, because I think that's chronological order for those stories.
Yes, it is. I dated someone in high school. One of those stupid, like, 2-week high school relationships, but it was Halloween day, and if I remember correctly, I had just been talking to my girlfriend at the time, and her best friend, who's a dude, was dressed as Mario, if I remember correctly, and he came up to me, and he was like, so-and-so does not want to be in a relationship with you anymore. And I got dumped by Mario.
And that's why Ben to this day refuses to buy a Nintendo Switch.
That is exactly why I refuse. I will pick any character. I will pick Bowser in Mario Kart more frequently than I'll pick Mario, and he is not aerodynamic, let me tell you.
No, he's the exact opposite of aerodynamic.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to tell the other story too, just because I think we need views.
Okay. Out
of high school, I dated this girl with a name. Most girls do have names.
Most of them.
And you would think when you date someone that you would not date another person with the same name. But see, I do not think that way, obviously. So I dated, my last relationship was with another girl with the same name, who arguably was a much more serious relationship. I dated her for longer than a month. It was like a year and a half. But you would think that after 2 girls with that name, I would avoid it like the plague. I would block all filters on my phone so that I would never see that name on my phone again. But no. I was on Bumble one day and I matched with a girl named... And I didn't date her, but I definitely hooked up with her a few times.
Congrats on the sex.
I felt terrible doing that, though, because I knew it was never going to go anywhere, because I just couldn't bring myself to date another person with the same name, which is probably like the shittiest thing I've ever done in my life. And
Ben's just cementing the fact that he can never come back to Winnipeg now.
Well, only 2 of them live there. One of them's here.
Well,
so, I mean, she still follows me on Instagram. Hopefully she doesn't see this. If you're bleep, I'm sorry for...
If you are bleep.
Yeah, that was interesting. I actually don't know if she would even know what I'm referring to. The second one knew that I dated a Chloe previously. It was kind of funny. But, yeah, not my proudest moment. I've moved on from that name. I avoid it on Tinder. I don't care how attractive I'm swiping left. All right, let's move on from that.
It's funny. I thought of this story while you were telling that. It's not exactly a Tinder story, but it fits the whole dating thing. Is that at the place I work, I cashier sometimes. And a week or 2 ago, I had probably 3 weeks ago, I had a girl through my till who I recognized, and this girl was my first crush back in grade 7.
Oh damn.
Yeah, right. Like right when puberty's starting to hit, right in the sweet spot when my voice was starting to crack and stuff. Like I remember that, and it's funny because I hadn't thought about this girl in years. As soon as she's in front of me now, like all those feelings I had back in like being 7 years old, being in 7th grade and being like 13 years old, and having like that feeling of the first time like being nervous around somebody. All of that flooded back to me, like that basically. It was really weird because I'm like I haven't seen or thought of this girl in, probably since 8th grade or 9th grade. But yeah, wild shit. Life's funny that way.
Damn, man. I was thinking that when I moved 1,200 kilometers away, I wasn't going to see people that I knew from high school. Because, you live like right by where you went to elementary, middle school, and high school.
Yep.
I went to schools all over the city, so like they're kind of spread out. I run into them kind of everywhere. But I definitely, when I was working at a pet store a couple years ago, there was someone that I went to high school with in the store. I didn't even think that was possible.
It's got to be a trip, eh?
Yeah, I was like totally thrown off. I'm like, where am I right now? Anyways, let's move on to the next topic. Actually, this episode is sponsored by water.
Oh, I thought, fuck, you had me there. I thought we had an actual sponsor. I was like...
We need sponsors. The budget is getting really high. We're in a recession. If you would like to invest in the podcast.
Ben has lost tens of thousands of dollars on this podcast already.
Yeah, these mics were very expensive. Only the top line audio.
Top quality Chinese product.
We've obviously spent a lot of money because we're not even in the same room right now. We decided to do this over Google Meet. So invest in the podcast, invest in the future. If you invest in the podcast now, you could turn your $100 into $200,000 in 1 week. And that's not a guarantee.
Oh yeah, that won't bring any lawsuits.
I said it's not a guarantee. That's like me saying not financial advice online. It's not financial advice, but you should burn a $100 bill.
I know you said that, but I thought of the joke before you finished the sentence, so we're going to live and die on this hill.
All right. Well, on to this question, which I wrote in the script as the opening question, but we're now 34 minutes into this recording. Would you date someone that makes more money than you?
Absolutely. I make fuck all. The question is, would I date someone who makes less than me? Because they'd probably be unemployed.
Fair enough.
Next.
Who knew it was going to be so easy to answer that question? Maybe I shouldn't send you these scripts, man, because like you've obviously had time to think. I probably would, but I don't think I would date someone who makes significantly more than me. Like if someone made like, let's say $100,000 a year, probably not. If it was like within a reasonable range, maybe though.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on the seriousness of the relationship, right? Because like if you're into the part of a relationship where you're, moving in together or like talking about possibly getting married, then I guess it could be a big thing because then you got to worry about things like prenuptial agreements and what have you. Like I know for a fact that when I get married, I'm going to have to, or if I ever get married, I'm going to have a prenuptial agreement solely because I don't want them taking half of my jerseys.
I was going to say, yeah, that's like an important one.
That's the whole thing. They can have anything else. I just want to keep my jerseys.
Which one you got in behind you? Unlike you guys, I can't see Wolf. I saw the jersey for a second, but what are the two behind you?
So right now behind on the door, I have my Colton Orr Leafs jersey, which I think is from 2011-12. On my right here is my Pierre-Cédric Labrie Moose jersey from 2008-2009 Manitoba Moose. And on my left over here is my Tim Jackman Calgary Flames jersey, which is from 2010-11, for those of you who care.
Quite a bit of diversity.
Yeah, I got a good lineup of all tough guys today, so...
Hell yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, but prenups. We're talking about prenups.
Yeah, I mentioned prenuptial agreement.
I don't even care how many assets I have. I would probably do it too. I've seen a lot of relationships end badly. I don't want to have problems.
Yeah, like a lot of people shit on it because they're like, oh, well, you're basically they say you're planning for the marriage to fail or whatever, but I mean, like, people have life insurance.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're planning to die? No, it just means that in the event that I do, I want people to be covered, like my family to be covered in the event that, God forbid, something terrible happens to me.
Yeah. The other thing too is that ultimately, if you split things evenly and you have enough assets and you're not really worried, like you have a fair bit of money, splitting that is usually fine, but that's usually actually where it becomes more important. But if you are struggling, splitting that can actually be really, really tough from what I've seen. And it can put you in a really bad financial place for a very long time. I mean,
if you go back to the original question, like if you're in a relationship with somebody who makes significantly more than you, all the more reason that they would want to have one, because if they're making significantly more than you, they have more of an incentive to, protect what they have and what they brought into the relationship.
That's true. I think like 70% of marriages end in divorce, though. Something like that.
I don't know if it's that high. I know at one point it was 50% or more, which is like, that's alarmingly high. Like, I can't remember who said this, but the analogy they used is like, he's like, yeah, the divorce rate is like 53% or something. He goes, imagine you're watching a group of people cross the street and 53% of them didn't make it.
That's actually crazy when you think about it.
Like, how excited would you be for your turn?
But I also think the other consideration is with marriage. My parents have been married for 27 years, if I'm not mistaken. 26 years? No, I think this year it's 30. 31. I don't know. Anyways, when you spend that much time with a person, like, I've changed a shitload in 2 years. How much would someone change in 30 years? They could become an entirely different person. Someone could have a midlife crisis. I don't think it's a bad thing to get divorced, because it would be much worse to stick through a relationship that makes you extremely unhappy. Like, it makes sense to me that happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's, not every divorce has to be bitter, nasty, at each other's throats. Mm-hmm. There's people that divorce amicably. You don't hear about them because they're not as fun, but
yeah.
There's people who are on good terms, especially like a lot of people who get divorced. If they have kids, they want to try to be civil with each other for the sake of the kids, because it's not exactly healthy to watch mom and dad at each other's throats all the time.
I saw a picture on Facebook, like probably last year. It was a story about a divorced couple that had kids, and for baseball games and stuff, like kids' baseball games, they would all sit in the stands together. And like the dad and the stepdad were like super close, and the mom and the stepmom were super close. Which, I mean, depending on how your marriage ends, of course, that can be very different, but that would be nice for a kid, you would think.
Yeah, that almost, I don't know if that's, I mean, I guess if that dynamic works for them, that's fine. That almost seems like you're too amicable. Not judging, but
Yeah, I mean, once the kids grow up, it's kind of whatever. But if they're young, probably better.
I would definitely say, you know, that'd be a big thing for me as a kid who played sports. I mean, my parents are still together, but you know, if my parents were on or had separated, if I saw them together supporting me, that would mean a lot to me.
Like, I know a lot of people whose parents are divorced too. It's like, it's crazy because I'm like one of few people that I know whose parents are still together. No, I guess that's a lie. I know a few people whose parents are still together.
I'd say it's about a 50-50 split amongst people I grew up, maybe a little bit more in favor of still being together. But yeah, my parents are still together after, I think this is their 31st year of marriage. And
damn, that's a long time.
Especially when you consider that they almost never had kids at all.
I mean, they only really had one, so it's believable.
Well, no, they only did have one. But the thing is that my parents were married in 1990, and I was born in 98.
Oh, damn.
So, I mean, like, they were right on the edge of, like, not having kids at all.
My parents were married for 5 years before they had kids, I think. I think they got married in 91, and my brother was 96.
But my parents, like, when my parents had me, my dad was 43 and my mom was 40, I think. Like, yeah, they were, like, very close to not having kids.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know if I think in the future I would want kids. Probably only 2. I could not imagine that right now. Like, I can hardly even take care of myself. Like, it's literally 3 p.m. and I have not eaten today. I've only had a cup of coffee and a little bit of water. Like, I could not take care of a kid.
Yeah, like, my thing with... I'm in the same boat as you. Like, when I think about it now, I have to kind of quantify it because I turned 23 this year, and I mean, I wouldn't want a kid right now. I mean, same as you, I have not eaten today. I had a cup of coffee this morning and that's it. I've done nothing today. I couldn't imagine being responsible for another, like, a very small person's well-being. At the moment, when I think about what my future might be, I don't think I want kids. Like, in 10 years from now, lots could change, right? Like, I might be in a position where I'm in a relationship with somebody who wants them. And that's another thing that terrifies me. One day I'm going to be in a relationship with someone who maybe I think is who I want to spend my life with, and that it's going to come down to being a deal breaker for her if I don't want kids, because that is a big deal breaker for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I guess, something when I start getting into serious relationships, I'm going to have to be relatively upfront about, that I don't think I'll ever want kids. But
I also do think over time that opinion can change.
Exactly.
And also that if the understanding's there, then that's fine. Kind of leads into a topic I wanted to chat about for a bit, which is setting limits and, like, understanding. Because I feel like in previous... not that I've had recent relationships, I've become significantly more mature and a lot more responsible since my last relationship. But it, like, took over my life very quickly. Instead of hanging out with friends, I was hanging out with my girlfriend, which is fine. But it was like probably 70% of my time spent outside the house was with my girlfriend. It was a little bit much. For future relationships, I obviously don't want that to be a thing, because I'd like to have a balance of being around different people. I'd like to be able to still go out and have fun with people that aren't my girlfriend. But I also think that if you get too close to 100% of your time spent with someone and too close to 0, like, respecting each other's time versus not spending any time together is, like, a tough balance. I don't even know how people would balance that.
I've never really been in a relationship to that point. I've definitely had times in my life where I feel close to something with someone, and it's eaten up a lot of my time and occupied a lot of my thinking.
Right.
Probably to the point that it was unhealthy, but that's also, I think, just a byproduct of the fact that I'm inexperienced in this particular arena. When I become enamored with somebody, or when I fall for somebody, if you want to use that term, I sort of fall head first.
Right.
So yeah, I have had times where I should have set better limits with myself and should have, realized that it's not, the sky's not falling and everything. So within a relationship, I mean, obviously, I think it's a thing that you need to maintain your own time away from each other and maintain your own friend groups. Like, if you start, if you find that you're being cut off from your friend group, then you need to probably evaluate what's going on and if your partner is actively doing that or if you're doing it yourself, and because it is healthy to have time away from each other.
That's true. Now that I think about it, though, when I was like, I literally have not fallen for someone since my last relationship. And it's probably just because I'm not really looking. But I remember that took up a significant amount of my time. Like, it was a significant amount of my priority because I knew what my goal was, which was to get into a relationship. So I think also those expectations in the beginning, like not wanting to have kids and not wanting a serious relationship or not necessarily seeing this relationship going somewhere, is something that needs to be communicated. But that also can affect that kind of balance, and that can affect the relationship even happening at all, to be honest. So for me, and I know I kind of touched on this, but like being single for me right now was the most important thing. And I know you said you were kind of looking to, like, not looking to get in a relationship, but looking like you're not avoiding it, was what you kind of said, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm at the point where, like, if something happens, then that's great. If not, then I have shit to do on my own time anyway. So, and
I think the point I wanted to make on that was that we often view that as like a very binary thing. Like, you're in a relationship, you're not in a relationship. I'm looking for a relationship, I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm dating, I'm not dating. But like, if I meet someone who I find is someone I enjoy spending time with, someone I've kind of got a crush on, if you want to use that term, I'd probably be a lot more interested in pursuing a relationship. But like, Tinder does not provide those things. You have to like meet with someone several times before you even remotely know if you like someone. So like, not being around people for the last year and a half, I certainly haven't felt that way. So I think the main reason why I'm saying I'm just more interested in being single is that like, I haven't had to go on a date or spend money on a date. And I like to save money and I like to invest money and pay off debt. So like, reducing that expense is kind of nice. I don't know that I'm necessarily opposed to it now that I think about it a little bit, but it also isn't as concrete of a yes or a no.
Touching on the point that you made before, is like the last time I found myself pursuing a relationship with somebody, I was actively in a point in my life where I had decided that I wasn't going to do that.
Right.
Like I was in a point where I'm like, you know what, I don't need it right now. I'm fine on my own, and I just not looking for it. And just sometimes people come into your life that throw a wrench in your plan.
Yeah.
Basically. So it was like, yeah, I'm not. If somebody would have asked me, I would have said, you know what, no, I'm not really looking for anything right now. And then I happened to meet somebody and was like, you know what, this has kind of changed everything for me all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think like putting those binary type things, like whether you are or not, often doesn't leave room for changes. And that is like true to everything. It's true to your career. Like, I'm looking for a job, I'm not looking for a job. I'm happy at my job, I'm not happy at my job. I want to move. I'm happy in my house. Like, being open to changes is huge. And I think that's probably like the biggest takeaway from that for me, is that like closing myself off to opportunities or possibilities has always ended badly. So such is the same in this situation.
I kind of ride the line, right? Like you said, closing yourself off from opportunities is you don't know what you're going to miss out on, right? So I just sort of ride that line between, I'm single and I'm content, I guess. I'm not, I wouldn't say no if something came along, basically.
Yeah. And I think like a final note that I want to wrap this on is that ultimately relationships have been a thing for a long time, and having that partner so that we could thrive and evolve as a society, like at a very like ape gorilla level shit, like we need to breed, we need to do that kind of thing. So in our society now, it's not as necessary, which is why I think the prominence of hookup culture has become a thing. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, whether you're talking to someone, whether you're on Tinder, whether you're thinking about yourself in a relationship. I think we all need to be a little bit more empathetic of our own feelings, other people's feelings, and like respect ourselves a little bit more too. Like, not depend on a relationship, respect the fact that being single is fine, and respect the fact that if you don't want something, it's fine and you don't have to feel pressure, which I think is something we don't do enough now, especially as dudes. thank you for watching this episode of the Mentality Podcast. We're going to be back every Thursday with episodes just like this. So in between, make sure you go follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Mentality Pod. It's all on screen now, and we'll see you next week.